Okay. Right, welcome to the Staffing Subcommittee of the Family Education and Justice Committee. Apologies and substitutes, do we have any? I don't think we have. Declarations of interest. Minute of previous meeting, is it agreed? Okay. Then we have approval of local agreement to AGNCT 35, flexible working, and you're going to introduce it?
Sure. Okay, each year a schedule to review current AGNCT agreements is agreed. As part of that work, the review started AGNCT part-time teachers job share, part-time teachers and job share, which it was AGNCT 20. This coincided with ongoing work from HR on flexible working arrangements for teachers. A decision was taken to combine the two work streams, which has resulted in the new agreement, which is AGNCT 35. That's not an easy set of letters to say it loud. Okay, I present the paper to you and happy to take any questions.
Question? Councillor Gregg.
Thank you, Convener. This is obviously quite a difficult one when it comes to flexible working, and I kind of relate it to primary schools where if you have 7 classes, you have 7 teachers. And if one of those teachers decides that they want to either to go part-term, then the options for flexible working are quite limited within the scope of that school. So it's perhaps a 2-part question, because on page 9, under 5, grounds for refusal, the very top one there is the burden of additional costs, and that's going to be difficult to mitigate with a small school with a pool of only so many teachers. If somebody wants to go part-time, that would then mean recruiting another part-time teacher. Similarly, the opposite way around, if a part-time teacher decides that they then want to go back up to being full-time for whatever reason, then it's, well, what do you do with that? So within this, where is a teacher based? Is it the school they're in, or is it Angus because they're employed by the Angus Education Authority? So in theory, they could be placed in whichever school. And I said, this is why I relate it to primary school, because you've got a much smaller cohort of staff available.
So I'll happily pick up the first part of that, and then I'll hand across to Neil, who's got more current understanding of the primary staff, and I've had primary staff in as a pleasure for a number of years, but Neil now handles that much more effectively than I ever did. The short answer to the question, they're employed by Angus and not by the school, and we look at the whole staffing as across the whole estate. So if for instance, we have 480 FTE teachers assigned to the primary budget, we look at that 480 in the round and assign to schools thereafter. That effectively means that nobody should be disadvantaged by being in a small school or a complex staffing situation within a school. And we're able to look at that sympathetically, majorly to hang on to good teachers and as well as meeting their family needs. But I'll hand across to Neil, who I'll give you more detail than that.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Councillor Gregg. We really try not to refuse any flexible working requests, because a number of them are tried in with being carers or new and expectant mothers in terms of how we try to approach that, Councillor Gregg. So Jim's absolutely right, the 480 FTE. So we didn't refuse any flexible workings this year, and some of them are in very small schools. What we try and do is agree with our trade union colleagues and the members of staff themselves that where schools are slightly overstaffed, our teachers will work across 2 schools across the week. Now, we're in a very unique situation in one where the staff member has agreed to work across 3. We would never have enforced that, but the staff member said they were quite happy to do that for their own professional development, for example. But we will use our 480 FTE because every one is part of that jigsaw, and we'll just reconfigure our jigsaw year on year to try and support all of our flexible working requests as best we can. What I have tried to do, and what we've tried to do collectively in a staffing review group, which contains head teachers, trade unions and central officers, is we had legacy flexible workings where people have been on flexible workings for 4, 5, 6 years. And what that actually does is it suppresses the opportunities to recruit to permanent posts for newly qualified teachers. So we've tried to manage things on a year-to-year basis now, so it's fairer. So you can constantly reapply year on year, but we'll always try and guarantee it for that first year in particular and agree and commit to reviewing it year on year. But again, this year we've agreed them all because we could, and where we can manage the 480 FTE differently year on year across all our schools, we do. So I hope that just gives you a wee level of reassurance. Is that reasonable?
That's great. Anything else? Any other questions? Comment?
Just a small comment. I'm quite happy with the new policy, so easily support the recommendations. But it's that thing of, I think it gives people the right balance of being able to request flexible working hours, but also gives us the power to ensure that we're not incurring additional cost, but we'll also protect the education environment. So I was surprised to hear actually Neil say there that you've managed to accommodate all that, Neil. I was quite surprised because I thought there'd be more refusals than not from malice, but just from the day-to-day running of the profession. So that was quite good to hear from Neil. So yep, quite happy to support the recommendations today. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I think that must be quite a logistical nightmare, quite honestly. You want to speak? Yes. Okay.
Do you know, I'd like to name drop someone called Elaine Dunn at this point, because Elaine Dunn, who's the staffing officer, is instrumental in pulling all of that together. Please don't think it's myself or Jim. It is not. It's done efficiently. But I would want to name drop Elaine Dunn, who's instrumental in delivering the primary staffing year on year. Thanks, Convener.
Oh, thanks for that too. So the recommendation is that we approve this. Do we approve it? Yep.
Agreed.
On to the next one.
I'll try and get AGNCT out properly this time.
AGNCT,
yeah. Special leave arrangements were last reviewed in 2004 and did not reflect current policies and practices. The arrangements were guidance and had not been agreed by AGNCT previously. As part of annual review, a decision was taken to review and update this guidance in line with SNCT, which is the national conditions and current employee and employment entitlements. This has resulted in the new AGNCT 36 agreement for special leave. And again, happy to take questions.
Any questions this time? No, I don't have any questions either. Okay, we just agree the recommendation. Oh, you want a comment? Okay. So
Thank you, Convener. Yeah, I was going to ask a couple of questions on this, but because it's so similar to the previous agenda item, and the question I asked, the answer that I was given has kind of tied all that up. So I'm happy to go ahead with this. Thank you.
thank you. So we agree the recommendation. Thank you very much. Okay, that's the end of the meeting then. Thank you.
John, can we stop the live?